So what do you think of the new setup?
I kind of want to copy it and steal your ideas. It looks so good, so.
Thank you. Well, hey man, you're the first guest on the new show.
Cheers. Hey, thanks for having me.
So, earlier I was telling you a little bit, but I did breath work for the first time, like the real deal. And I had Jeremy Jackson. Do you know who Jeremy Jackson is?
You mentioned a little bit about him, but I didn't know much before today.
So Jeremy's awesome. He's become a really good friend, but he was, remember the show Baywatch?
Of course, yeah.
He was Hobie.
Oh, okay.
Mitch Buchanan's son.
Nice.
He's great. He's awesome. He's become a really good friend. But he does like guided healing, guided breath work, meditation, stuff like that. So him and his girl came over and did a private session with Lizzie and I.
Yeah.
And dude, it was next level. I was bawling, sweating, spitting shit up, crying, all of it. And some healing happened.
There's like a purge element to it.
Yeah. Almost like I'm casting out a demon, you know what I mean? Like it was like intense. It was like very, very intense. So, I advocate for it now. I ended up telling him, I want to hire you to, come by every other week or whatever and run me through some different stuff.
Yeah, I mean, focus for me, 2025 is all things healing related. So
that's it.
I'm interested when you bring him in, invite me over.
And that's, absolutely. I think we should do it together. And with that being said, 2024 was a year for you.
Yeah. 2024 was a big reset. I felt like so much of my life was not properly aligned and I wasn't willing to make changes. And so without sounding a little bit too strange, maybe the universe made those decisions for me because I wasn't, God made those decisions, different language people use for different belief systems. But I think if you're unaligned for long enough, and you're unwilling to make changes, sometimes those changes just force themselves out, that purging you're talking about.
Yeah. This conversation is interesting because, and just kind of like the whole paradox of this thing is cool to me. Because I grew up a huge fan of your band and we did not grow up together. We didn't know each other really. Yeah. We didn't know each other at all. You're
Michigan, right?
Yeah. So we've played shows together, but I don't think you remember at all. Or we played one show together at Skeletones.
Yeah. When you told me the story, I remember the whole event, but I don't remember meeting you specifically.
Yeah. I probably didn't, you know what I mean? Or we crossed, but anyways, then later on in life for you to meet me the way that I am now, where I've gone through a lot of healing, sober, you've never seen me fucked up.
Yeah. I've only known the sober version of you.
And that's pretty rare. You know what I mean? And everybody in California does. But to think when you first met me, I was young. I was probably 14 years old, 15, 16.
How tall were you at that age?
Probably 6'2".
Okay. So you were still pretty tall back then.
And you were skinny.
Yeah. I was still the same height, but very skinny. Yeah.
Yeah. You were a tall, skinny guy.
Yep.
And then, I don't really know how you and I ended up connecting. I don't remember. It was pretty organic though. Because I think I was hanging with Brandon a lot.
Yeah. I think it was through Rise Above and the whole gym, just the gym culture in general.
Yep. And then we connected. I think the first time we hung out was maybe New Year's Eve or something like that. Or maybe there might have been one time before we trained down.
Yeah. We trained together a couple times and then you invited me out for New Year's and you kind of, I don't think you were officially responsible for that, but you made it. You're you took care of everybody, and it was nice.
Yeah, I like pursuing good friends and good people, and this relationship. Now it's crazy to me to think if you would have asked me when I was a As a Dying fan, I was a hardcore Christian scene kid in West Michigan. That I would have this relationship with you. This is an important relationship because obviously it's something that I manifested that I wanted to have. I believe my friends are the best friends. I only surround myself with the best people. And you exemplify that. And you've been through some shit.
Yeah.
Recently.
Yeah, I've definitely had some points in my life where I feel like I was myself, so to speak, and then times in my life where I've just gone down some dark paths, and I don't think it's a mystery to people, and that they've seen it's been very public every time. So some people will
judge you, criticize you, and they don't know the whole story, but whatever the media tells them, whatever, there's always going to be speculation. And, you know, if you read, like, you know, obviously I see a lot of stuff about you because I follow you. I listen to this style of music. I'm, you know what I mean? So when I look, I see a lot of the articles and things like that, and you can't help but look at the comments. And it's so funny because I'm like, I go in there like an angry mom, you know what I mean? Or a protective mom. I'm like, you guys don't fucking know what you're talking about. Like, you know, you're like, I know this person, like whatever, but I never comment. But I think I have a couple times actually. I've been like, yeah, that's not correct. But anyways, to be somebody that's and I'm not, you know what I mean? Like I have a following or whatever, but I'm not like you. Like people, like they look up to you, they idolize you.
I think there's also a sensational side at this point where, like, if I were to, you know, if I farted in the grocery store, that'd be like a news article.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I mean, so it's like, I don't really think there's anything I can do to step away from that life and just like, you know, this year is like a focus on healing for me. Right. But I can't completely get away from the public, you know, and I think other people have that opportunity to go focus on themselves for a while.
But people get over it.
Yeah. Yeah, they do. Short attention spans, and there's so many more important things going on in the world. Like I remember I was getting a while back, shortly after being incarcerated, I went to get my master's degree, and I was at San Diego State, and there's, you know, 10,000 people walking around campus all the time. And I just realized, dude, nobody cares. Nobody here. Most of these people don't listen to metal. The majority of people here don't know who I am. The people that do, they're just saying hi. That's it. Life goes on. You know what I mean? I'd only been out of prison for like 2 months or something like that.
Yeah, at that time. Yeah. Tell me how that kind of changed the course of things.
The going back to school and stuff, or
going to, first of all,
incarcerated. Yeah.
Because like you went from being like the most point of free, and when I say that, I mean
traveling the world. You're a rock star and everything, to now like you know,
you know, you think about like athletes and you know and obviously like movie stars and rock stars and stuff like that. Like that level of, to a lot of people, they go from being incarcerated in like a life of like a job they fucking hate, and you know what I mean, they're prisoners of life, and then they go to prison, and it is what it is. But somebody like you, it's like a huge drastic change. You know, how what was going through your mind in that time?
I mean, I have perspective looking back that it was a time of survival rather than healing. And so I think the healing that I should have been doing back then, I hate to say this, but I'm still doing some of that now, because when I was supposed to be healing, I was trying to survive, you know? And so it's like it's a thing where like, when you finish all that, you're just so thankful to be free. You're not really caring if you're healed or not. You're just like, okay, I can go back to society.
Right.
So I think that's the big issue for me is, for anybody that's going through, like whether it's addiction recovery or incarceration or whatever, you got to get past like trying to survive to be able to heal.
Yeah. It's hard to focus on healing when you have that level. That's a big distraction. When you when you're just like, you know, focusing on surviving, how do you thrive? You can't thrive when you're just trying to just get by.
But with that said, it's on me as well, though, because I've had time post-incarceration to then go back and revisit these things. And a lot of times life just gets so busy. I get so caught up in, you know, wanting to pursue music or make professional relationships a priority rather than meaningful. Like one of the things you and I have talked about is like, you can really only truly keep like 5 or so people that actually can really know you. And everybody else is sort of like on that outer bubble, and they're your acquaintances or people you work with or whatever. But I mean, I was spending so much time trying to work with these like professional relationships that I didn't really build the sense of community that I have now. And so while my life is at a difficult point of rebuilding in a lot of ways, my inner sense of community is better than it's ever been now.
Yeah.
And maybe the outer sense of like how I'm perceived by the world is like, people want to keep me at arm's distance, but the people close to me have really stepped up.
Yeah, that's good. That's really good stuff. You don't find that in the music scene, the sense of community, as much?
I mean, it exists. I know there's the classic story of like the guys that went to school together and they were best friends, and they decided to, each guy was going to learn an instrument, and then they started on the foundation of friendship. There's a few of those bands out there, but most of the time when you get to a professional level and it's like, dude, I just want to find the best best guitar player I can think of, or the best drummer, whoever. And you're not really spending enough time with the person to know how much personal concern do we have for each other here.
Right.
You know, it's just like who's best at their job. You know, just like you recruiting for any other company, you know what I mean? If you're a soft drink manufacturer, you're not out there looking for the chemist that you get along with the best to develop your fake sugar soda or whatever it is, right? You're just looking for some like, brilliant,
give me some talent.
Yeah.
But I don't know though. So I see that. I see the level of business that's involved with the band, but in business in general. But I also look at it like, I want to have like a good ethos. I want to have well, it
doesn't have to be that way. Like I chose to make it that way, but that was my own fault. Like it doesn't have to be that way. Just, maybe the soft drink manufacturer is a bad example because of course, those guys work 8 to 5 and then they go home. Right. But living with the person in a bus and all of that, I'm responsible for making sure that there is health in my own life and personal concern between the people I'm working with. And, I didn't prioritize that enough. And, that's a big reason. Like we've been connected for the past 2 years, but that's like why when big life changes happen, like you and I get closer as friends is because, that's when I draw in the people like, wow, you know what? This dude has nothing to gain from being my friend. Like this guy actually cares about me.
Yeah.
Right. You know what I mean? So,
yeah. And I told you that too, because current events, we had a conversation a while back and I kind of, it's funny. And I'm known for this. Like I'm the guy because I've been through chaotic relationships in my life and I've both left and been left before.
Mm-hmm.
And in both of those situations of pure chaos, that both the times that I either left or that person left saved our lives. And any time that I tried to work it out, it caused more destruction and damage.
Yeah.
And so when my only personal, and I'm also a codependent, just like you are.
Yeah. Yeah. We talked about that.
Yep. And so when codependence can break up with people, right? It's like impossible for us to break up.
Or when you finally do, it's like, dang, I should have done that a year ago.
Yeah.
That's like in my situation, it was like, I wanted to ignore the signs regardless of how miserable my life was, because I am not used to focusing on my health and happiness. I'm used to focusing on somebody else's.
Yep. So that conversation we had almost a year ago, it was obviously like, I know that none of my homies want to hear that.
Yeah. You're the only friend of mine that said, dude, like, I know where you're at because I've been there, and
call a lawyer.
I mean, you got to get out,
Yeah.
And, everybody else was like, everybody else thought that. In fact, when I caught up with all of my family and friends, they were all just like, man, like I wanted to tell you for so long. I was scared because if you tell somebody to leave a relationship and then they stay, then maybe you get pushed away. Like my brother is an example. He's thinking like, if I tell you how strongly I dislike this life for you, and then you stay, and then I end up getting pushed out and I no longer have a brother.
And that's typically what happens, right? Or the other thing that always happens too is like, and then I think this happens more with the female than the male, but like they go back to their family and they're like, you'll never believe what so-and-so did, and we're done and I'm through with his shit. And then they get back together and then all of a sudden like family doesn't take either of you serious anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. There's an element of that too. Cause there's those moments where I think like, okay, I've got the balls, I'm going to leave. And then I don't.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I think a lot of people hearing this, and if you deal with codependency or if you're in a bad relationship, like sometimes just giving up is a good thing. And a lot of times it is. It is working it out, like rarely ever works. Because if it's already damaged, if there's already a lot of damage done, trust has been broken, things like that, the only thing that you're doing is wasting time.
Yeah.
And creating more hurt and more drama. And then it becomes harder. The more you fight to stay, the harder it becomes to leave.
Yeah. It's the whole like thing where the more effort you put into something, suffering is caused by attachment, that kind of thing. It's like the more, if you're building something, even if it's a if you're building a car and it turns out to be a piece of junk, but the fact that you put in 100 hours to build that thing, you're like, I'm going to keep building it.
Yeah.
I got to finish it.
Right.
You know, and it's like, you should.
Girl's telling you, stop.
Yeah. Stop putting money into that old piece of junk, right? You know.
Yeah.
But you can't, because you put 100 hours in already.
Right.
Yeah.
So yeah, and you know, I'm glad to see where you're at now, and it's really interesting because we had a conversation a while back, and you were a little frantic.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
You know, and you were having issues with the band. Do you want to talk about like how that kind of came up? Was that in conjunction with the relationship situation? Because I think a lot of people, there's a lot of speculation.
Yeah, I mean, I think it just really comes down to the amount of anxiety I had on a relationship level that I just carried on a regular basis of like not understanding. I just don't understand how you could be with a person and not be kind to them, and it like really like mess with my head to the point where I just would wake up with anxiety. I'd go to sleep with anxiety, and to me, like being that version of myself, it was inevitable I was going to push everybody else away, right? Because like, how do you connect with the person that's drowning in anxiety constantly, but won't talk to you about it?
You can't.
Because I wasn't going to talk about it, because I didn't want to let anybody know how deeply unhealthy things were, because then they would tell me I have to leave the relationship, but I wanted to find a way to fight and stay, right? So like I just kept it in. And they're like, you know, people are just saying like, Tim's acting less and less like himself. Like, I'm concerned, what is going on? I never yelled at anybody or argued with anybody, or we never had fights. It wasn't like that. It was just like from afar, they were like, this dude just feels like he's falling apart. Like, what's going on? And the irony is that my relationship ended at the same time that those guys sort of gave up, per se. This, I'm not blaming them, but the solution occurred at the same time that they felt like they no longer were. They didn't want to stick around because they felt like there was no solution, right?
No attempt to intervene, nothing at all.
It was, and that's not to their discredit. I mean, I tend to, the more I'm struggling, the more I isolate, right?
Do you see though how that could be a problem with the concept of being in a band and it being strictly business? Because maybe if your band was more like brotherhood, they would be like, yo, dog, this has got to go. Or here's maybe an ultimatum to where it would have actually provided you a little more clarity, where it would be like, oh, fuck, well, I have an album coming out, like shit's going to happen. And this is like, this woman is creating a lot of issues in my life that are now affecting my career. You know what I mean? Let alone my mental health, which is the most important part.
Yeah.
But
I do have to defend them that so part of why I bottled up and isolated more is that I did get this sense of ultimatum that was like, hey dude, whatever you're going through, like I can't see that stuff surface again. Because if that comes out again, like I'm gone. That's, you know, a couple of guys had said that, or one of the guys had said that. And so then it was like, okay, well now, like, I feel like I got to like hide my struggle. Right.
Did they experience anything on tour or anything like that was questionable?
Yeah. I mean, they're like, you know, verbal arguments and stuff, or, you know, you'd be like, hey, where did they go? Where did that Tim and, you know, me and my ex would go, you know, and they'd be like, dude, like they've just been gone for the last 2 hours. Like, we're waiting for him. Like, where is it? And it just was like that whole, like, I'm just scratching my head being like, how can I resolve conflict? And there was no way to possibly resolve. I'm always looking for a way to resolve conflict. It's within my nature. Maybe it's the codependent thing like you're talking about. Mm-hmm. So I just like, all I care about is resolving it.
It's exhausting. It is exhausting being with another couple that are having issues. Like, and I can't imagine being on tour. I've been on vacations with other couples and they can't get along, and things are happening and dinners are getting canceled, plans are, and we've experienced that actually. With our own plans, you and I
cancel a lot,
and it's exhausting, and it's like, and I can tell you as your friend, and I'm always completely straight up with you. There's been times where it's fucking tough because like, is it dependable? Is it whatever?
Yeah.
But I wanted so badly to pursue our relationship.
It's probably confusing for you as a friend, because when you hang out with me, it's me and you.
Totally
like
different.
Dude, Tim's great. What's the problem? I don't get it. You know, but when you see us together, you're like, oh man.
But I do get it.
This is not good
because I've seen it.
Yeah. But I'm saying, if it's just you and me, you know, all of our interactions have been fantastic. It's when we go on like a double date, or in that context, you're like, man, like this dude looks so stressed out.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I visibly look stressed out.
Yeah. Yeah. Today has been so awesome. Like it is. It's like we actually get to like just be us and not have to deal with that. So it is, and it's not her, it's not you. It was this the combination.
Yeah. And that's like, even that's with like former band members or, you know, my ex or anything like that. It's really just a matter of me recognizing like I was not aligned. I needed to make some changes. Sometimes those changes are hard to make. And so you just, you put them off. Or in my case, like speaking with the therapist, you know, he's saying, dude, people value persistence, right? That's how I built my career on persistence. But there is a point at which persistence is unhealthy. Like, like you didn't know when to give up when you should have been giving up.
Yep.
And it's actually rare because it's like, man, like I value that about myself, that like when it comes to, if I have to make albums by myself, I make an album. I do every instrument, do the whole thing, no problem. And so to me, it's just like, I will make music work out of sheer persistence. Yeah. And it has worked for that reason. But when you apply that to like other areas of life, that is not good. You know?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, especially if it's dependent on another person involved.
Right.
And especially if it's an intimate relationship.
Yeah.
Very unlikely.
Yeah. And I love things where when I go to therapy and the therapist says, hey, here's your shortcomings, I'm like, great, I can work on all that. Yeah, sounds awesome. Cool. Like point them out so that I can get, you know, when you're in a couple situation and somebody says, hey, here's the problems that you guys have. You know, here's your part of it, and blah, blah, blah. But it's like, I can't fix all of that because I'm not you guys, I'm just me.
Right.
Right. And I'm not saying that it's a blame thing. I mean, I'm sure that it all goes both ways, but it's a very confusing situation. So there's this piece I have from just being me right now. You know, and it's like, hey, I'll figure out the rest of it like way later when I'm in a better place, because pursuing a relationship for somebody who has been formerly incarcerated, lost his kids, you know, all kinds of things like that. It's like, dude, I got to heal from that. No, I think to speak to this concept of, you know, codependence or being unhealthy in a relationship, I think a lot of it comes down to, if I never took time, you know, if I had the heartache of losing what matters most to me, you know, when a person loses their kids, there is a loss there that's like transcends, like, you know, breaking up their girlfriend or something like that. It's not the same.
No.
And so when you're dealing with that, you want to fill that void so badly that I think I pursued trying to be loved from another person at the point where I was willing to put up with 90% just really brutal, whatever you want to call it, because I just wanted that 10% of time where I just felt like the void is filled, you know?
It's like any addiction.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's like,
But if I had taken time to heal and address like, hey, losing my kids destroyed a big part of my heart, you know, then I wouldn't need that.
Right. Right. You do this, it's doing the work first and then attracting what you deserve after the fact.
Yeah.
Been there.
Yeah.
You know, I know that feeling. I know that feeling all too well. And same with my son and all of it. And it is the worst.
I think for people that, you know, think like, oh man, like, you know, this dude's had every opportunity. I think that's a criticism that's warranted, because it's like, man, I've had plenty of opportunities to take a step back and heal from that, but I never wanted to talk about it because I felt like to some degree there was this belief that if I try to say something, it's not, when you talk about somebody losing their kids, right? It's natural to feel sympathy towards them, right? And if I'm talking about something where he'll feel like, oh, he's trying to gain sympathy for like how he feels or what he went through, then I know for me, that's like because I'm a public figure, that's a bad look, right? It's like, oh, that dude's a narcissist, or that dude's or whatever. He's trying to do whatever. And so I didn't talk about it. I mean, if you look at the last, 12 years ago is when, was when I was arrested. In the last 12 years, I've maybe just acknowledged that loss like once or twice, very, very briefly. And avoiding that to me was a real problem.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, I can't do anything other than just like come out and say, man, that's the root.
That makes sense.
But there's something freeing in finally acknowledging that thing I didn't want to talk about, or if I did talk about it, it'd be like once a year for a couple minutes, something freeing about, if it's 12 years later and I got to cry about it 100 more times, then that's what I got to do.
Yeah, definitely. And it's addressing it. And then I've learned that putting myself completely out there and just being open about it often. And like that, there's something like really relieving about it too, but the authenticity is a big, big thing when it comes to attraction and the connections that you make with people. I'm a firm believer that your life is determined by who you do life with. And I don't mean that romantically. I mean that with the people that you surround yourself with.
Yeah.
You have to put personal, you have to work on yourself, get yourself right and all of that stuff, obviously. But then those connections, those meaningful connections are what are going to determine how you deal with things like this moving forward.
Mm-hmm.
Shutting it off, if it has to do with the children, the incarceration and whatever, and trying to like bottle it up and, quote unquote, be a man, it's not going to work.
No, I mean, I when I talk about incarceration stuff, it's like almost, I wouldn't say fun, but like entertaining stories of this alternate universe, right? Like that's not the sentence I carry with me, right?
Yeah,
it's the loss related to that.
Correct. I get where it's come, where it is.
But I mean, just to clarify for a lot of people, they'll like avoid asking me questions about being incarcerated. It's like I don't really, mind talking about that. That's not the hard part. Like I think some of the stories are like crazy and bizarre, like movie-like, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I survived. I'm very fortunate to have been, genetically speaking, like a taller, bigger guy or whatever.
Not fuckable.
Yeah, right. So like that part to me, once I just learned the politics of it all and the chaos of like how that system works in California in particular, because we live in such a weird system here, particularly. Once I figured all that out, it's like, oh man, this is actually like when I'm hanging out and friends are, asking me questions, I'm like, I like almost enjoy telling these stories.
Yeah.
But if you were to ask me questions about the losses I have around being incarcerated, I mean, incarceration wasn't a good time either. It's just more like crazy stories, but like it's the losses around that are such a heavy burden. And I don't know, there's no freedom from that. It's not like I have a release date. I gave the state of California 5 years, according to them, how they split it up in different ways, but there wasn't like a 5-year end to that, like void in my heart.
Right. What, how old are they?
So I've been asked, like, out of respect for them to not talk about them publicly.
Fair enough.
But I can mention the feelings that I have and things like that in a broader sense. But
yeah.
But for their freedom and autonomy to like live their lives removed from the chaos that I've had in my life is something they deserve.
Totally. It's tough. Thanks for opening up.
Yeah, man, it's good to get it out. It's a different kind of feeling talking about it now than it's probably been at any point in the last 12 years.
So the newest album, you know, we talked a little bit at lunch about this, but where was your mind when you were writing that one?
I mean, I don't think it's a mystery. If people read the lyrics, there's a sadness to those lyrics that's
Totally
really evident. And I think that because it's like a business relationship kind of situation, like, you know, we work on a song, I write the lyrics, and I present the vocal patterns, ideas, and it's a collection of sounds to some people. They don't really look deeper into it. And it's not really something that was ever discussed amongst the people I created that with, but in my own weird way, it was like that cry for help moment where it's like, hey guys, like I didn't realize this is subconscious, you know. It's like I'm going through some stuff and I don't really know how to talk about it, but I can create art about it.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, that's the album's good. But there is a level of emotion behind it that I haven't heard out of you before. And given the time that, and I don't know like what the timeline was between what was going on at home and as you were writing that up. And at the same time too, like that album came out shortly after Austrian Death Machine's album, and that's like all fun and games, right?
Right, yeah.
So it's like to see like both sides of you on that is interesting. But how, like for anybody that's a fan of yours that understands you as Tim the man, not Tim the rock star, right? Where does your head go when it's work mode? I mean, I know we have to check our emotions and like that, but
you know, what's funny is I always in this like weird void of the universe sense, I'm just like, hey, I kind of want to just like write whatever I feel, no matter how vulnerable it is, and see if like anybody cares or notices. Like it's kind of like, yeah, it's kind of weird. But I mean, there's definitely people out there that get it, and there's definitely people that take what I'm going through and apply it to their own lives, and I think that's beautiful in its own way, because like I was trying to help myself, and now somebody's been able to find help in their own way with their own twist on the song, and I think that's great. But I've always just kind of been like, man, like I write these songs and nobody ever talks to me about them. It's kind of weird.
Do you think that this album was the most intentional album that you've read?
I don't know. I don't think I've ever been unintentional writing music. I think in my life as a whole, you know, I've been pulled in all these different directions, but when I focus to write a song, I mean, I'm in that moment, like, and that's truly the most therapeutic sense of freedom I have. I can, you know, talk about like how healthy it is to live in the moment, right? And I was like, that's part of why I've been drawn toward art you know, audible art from my side, you know, because I can't draw for shit, but like, you know, you know, so it's like, but my artistic outlets have come from this, like, wow, I'm in the moment while I'm creating this. And I think that the latest album just represents where I was at that time, which is maybe an even particularly vulnerable moment at you know, for certain songs.
Yeah. I think sometimes though, that's like when the most beauty occurs, you know, actually pretty much all the time, really.
I mean, I think I'm not alone in this, and neither, you know, a lot of people are drawn towards sad art because it makes them feel happy in a weird way.
The best songs are sad songs.
Yeah. It's like, I hear that sad song and it's like, wow, it like warms my heart for some reason. And then I hate to think of somebody's pain having to been the means by which that was created. But, you know, I think it's that whole, like, I'm not alone feeling. Like, I felt that, it's okay. We're going to be okay. You know?
Yep. That, I think that your story, that this entire thing today and moving forward, you know, we had a conversation where it was like, you know, like, well, what am I going to do? Am I going to like hide out for a little while until this shit blows over? And I said to you, no. I said, let's just, you know, just go for it. Like, fucking own it and keep pressing forward. I think that what you've gone through, from, you know, 12 years ago till recent and everything, like, I think that this is important. you're a big name, so you have a big weight, right? Like the things that happen that come out about you, for whatever reason, even though they don't actually impact anyone's life, people have to put their fucking face in it and nose in it.
Yeah.
Right. So like the old saying of great power comes great responsibility, right? But like, you're a man, and you have decisions that you make, and you have actions that you've done and things like that. But at the end of the day, it doesn't change the fact of where your heart is and who the type of person you are.
Mm.
I told you this when we had our last conversation on this topic. I said, your fans will love you no matter what. Most of them.
Mm.
You know, speculation and all of it doesn't fucking matter. You are, and I know you as you're one of the greatest dudes I know. And we can see, most of us can see right past anything, and we want you to fucking crush. Like, I want to see you on stage constantly. I love watching your band. I love watching you on stage. I love when you release music. It's some of my favorite music. And if it's therapeutic, it's therapeutic. But at the end of the day, it's your job. And I guess I don't really know where I'm going with that. I just think, you know, this is important. This story, the whole entire thing is important to what you have.
Yeah, I mean, there's a portion of people, they're like, oh man, I just hope that this is the last I ever hear from that guy, right? But it's not really an option. I mean, I can't just like stop living my life, right?
Oh yeah.
I mean, let's just say I went and got a job at the Shell gas station down the street. Like, that's just not really going to happen. You know what I mean? Like, that's what some people want from me, you know? I go try it out, you know, and one out of every 20 people that walks in there's like, whoa, is that Tim Lambesis behind the counter? It's going to be weird, right? Mm-hmm. And eventually people are going to be like, dude, like, you can't be, like, you need to do what you are here to do.
Yeah.
And that's, you know, that's where I'm at it. And like, when I have setbacks or mistakes or terrible tragedies that I've created in my life, dude, I still got to get up. Like, I don't really have a choice, you know?
Yeah. I don't even really consider this a setback, because from the sounds of it, you know, the next evolution of As I Lay Dying is going to be pretty badass.
Yeah. I mean, I don't really want to talk about the details of that.
No, we don't need to.
But no, and not that anything's like particularly hidden, but I do feel like my task right now is to be further down this healing path. And when I'm there, I think it's somewhat inevitable that I will, for people that like As I Lay Dying already, right? You know what I mean? I might not like win over new fans or whatever, but for people that are like, I wonder if the next As I Lay Dying album is going to be good, or whatever he does next is going to be good. Of course it's going to be good if I just focus on my health and become the person that, you know, can create that and have a stable surrounding and a good community around me. And that's what's going to give it strength, you know? But I mean, the musical creation has never been the difficult part for me. And that's like a weird thing, right? If you recall, like, record label people or, you know, booking agents or all these people, they're like, oh, well, you know, is Tim good at his job? And they're like, yeah, of course he's good at his job. But you know, he's like potentially a mess in other areas of life. And so it's just like, dude, like, my job is the least of my worries.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. It's like athletes that have issues and they're like, well, he's a fucking great baller.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And we're going to look past the issues and go forward. The difference is, and, you know, one thing that you don't want to end up is a statistic like most other athletes. Most other athletes that have issues consistently have issues for their entire career.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Not comparable whatsoever, but like Mayor Hernandez is something that's a hot topic right now, you know?
Right.
And it was like, dog, like, you have everything all set up. Why do you have to continue to fuck up? What is going on in your life that you continue to fuck up? So what I would say for anybody that is dealing with, like, let's call it what it is, self-sabotage.
Yeah. I mean, there's a self-destruct button, and things can't go well for too long without wanting to, I don't know, but it is with certain people. And I've been one of those people, you know.
This common denominator, though, is an unhealthy relationship.
Yeah. And it's the unaddressed, right? Like you know, however awkward it is for me to share that and cry about it, like there's clearly something that's been unaddressed for the last 12 years in my life, or just scratch the surface of it, right? And when it comes to, if you have something traumatic happen and it creates a void in your heart and you feel like you shouldn't talk about it, you're not allowed to talk about it, or nobody wants to give you sympathy, or if you did get sympathy for it, it would be, you know, you'd be called a narcissist, or like, I have to put all that aside and just say, I don't care what people say about it.
Yeah.
Like, I have to just address this. This is a huge void in my life. And if I don't heal from it.
Well, yeah, sympathy is not going to do anything.
Exactly. I don't want it. I don't want pity. I don't want sympathy, but I want to address it. I want to be able to talk about it and say, this is what's held me back.
Yep. That's important.
Pity's kind of gross. I don't want pity, right? You know what I mean?
Yeah, it sucks.
Yeah. When I pity somebody else, I'm like, oh man, I hope they don't know that I pity them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That would make them feel worse.
Yeah.
And I don't want that. I just want to be able to address it, to say this exists. Like, I can't pretend it doesn't exist. I mean, that's it. It's like, it's pretty simple. Like, me just acknowledge waking up daily and being like, this is a void. It's still a void in my life. I can't just hide my head in the sand and pretend it's not there. And every day that I remember it, it's a little bit less of a void, which is interesting. You know, I would have thought the opposite, right?
Yeah. I think there's a level of like acknowledging that it exists, right? Opening up about it, talking about it, not being afraid to talk about it. And then on top of that, also understanding serenity at that level, right? Where it's like, you know, we acknowledge the things that we can't control at this point, right?
Yeah.
But we don't need to spend a lot of time concerning ourselves with it because there's nothing we can do in the first place.
Yeah.
Right. But what you can do is like literally focus in on yourself, your personal development, your healing, you know? And I think that kind of time alone is going to be really important, you know? I'm getting in another fucking relationship.
I mean, I'm laying low, you know, like, and I think that it's probably been clear to most people. I don't post a lot. I don't do these kinds of things. And,
actually, I've been seeing you more on socials.
Well, when it comes to the casual, like
gym stuff, things like that. But that's good. I smile when I see that because I see you like living.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely wasn't living, as you know, like you try to make plans with me and I cancel every time we make plans, you know, so that part is good, you know, and I think what I'm trying to put into my routine is like, hey, I'm back at the gym because this is a health, when done right, this is a healthy healing environment. I'm hanging out with my friends because you know what, when I do this is my community. This is what helps me heal.
Yeah.
You know, and that's what I want to be able to have consistently in my feed, you know, but this whole idea of like promoting this, that, or the other thing, there's like a lot of pressure with that. It makes me kind of crumble a little bit, you know? And so when it comes to like, you know,
you have to right now.
No, exactly. That's what I'm saying. That's why when I say laying low, I was like, I'm not creating a promotional content for a new album, or I'm not trying to like shoot music videos or do these things. That's the stuff that burns me out. Right. And that's where I'm laying low right now. Yeah. And eventually that'll come back. But right now,
because that's work.
Yeah, exactly. Right now, all my content is just friends, you know, gym, outlets, you know, probably be on my bike. I mean, our weather's perfect. It's crazy. Like I was like sweating outside with a sleeveless shirt on.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, I mean, I just get on my bike, get you a bike, you know, so.
God damn it.
Maybe. Yeah. I got one for you if you need it.
I know. I've ridden it.
Yeah, I know. It's just sitting around.
Yeah. Yeah, I need something bigger though.
Which one did you ride again? I forgot.
I rode your old one
with the
other Fatway, or
so like that's a weight wise, it's a big bike, but the engines back then compared to engines now, I mean,
yeah, no, I want a CVO if I get something.
Yeah. But I will say that, weight wise, that was a heavy bike actually. It's just, you are such a big person.
Yeah, I dwarf every bike.
Yeah. It's like I have 650 pounds or so. I don't know. I've never weighed it, but it's definitely like, I felt her to stop sign
like
time and
the 500
to pick it up. It was nuts.
Yeah. No, I can throw around the street glide pretty well.
It's good.
So on a lighter note, we had a fucking killer workout today.
Yeah.
That gym was fantastic.
It was really nice. I've never seen a isolated where it's like two Smith machines in one.
Yeah. I loved it. I actually don't trust this. My chest is.
I talk a lot of trash on a traditional Smith machine because you're stuck in this plane, like you can't, whatever, you can't really move. And if you're imbalanced, like you're still pushing the bar kind of weird. You can't like push one side more than the other. And that was a unique piece of machine.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I liked how it came together at the end.
Yeah.
Really good. That's cool. Jake was saying that he wanted to come down and record his vocals with you.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I've also been occasionally, it's like there's this weird thing where in my mind, I hate working on other people's music because I just have so much of my own music that I'm like backlogged on.
Oh, really?
But if it's like one of my homies, then I'm like, you know what? I want to hang with my buddy for the day. Like we might as well do something productive while we're hanging out anyways.
Yeah.
And then I like give in, you know what I mean? So
yeah.
But yeah, I mean, when it comes to like my friends and stuff, I like producing music when I enjoy the person I'm in the studio with.
Yeah.
I just like back in the day, I used to produce albums all the time, and it'd be like, all 5 band members like hanging out, looking over your shoulder, and it's like, man, this is not fun. You know what I mean? So,
yeah. Who do you think are the top in metal right now? Top producers in the space.
Producers. I mean, I can't really say because I haven't worked hands-on with some of these people, but I mean, I would say that the dude that did the last As a Dime record, Hiram Hernandez, he's absolutely incredible.
Okay. What about what's his name? Josh Random Awesome, the dude that did the Lorna Shore.
Oh yeah, Schroeder.
Yep, yeah. I know him.
Yeah. I mean, I think for that genre, obviously he's put together some great records, so he must be fantastic at it. I've just never worked with him, and a lot of times there's like this mystique around producers because like there's some guys that are like fantastic engineers and not great producers, and there's other guys that are great producers and actually terrible engineers. So like, what a person's famous for is really, really hard to say. Because there's like a collective effort that goes through. And then very rarely you have somebody who's a great producer and a great engineer and you work with them. And that's like, that's kind of the dream right there. You know what I mean? So
be like Adam D.
I mean, Adam D is an amazing producer. I mean, there's so many good ones. So it's like when you're comparing like who's the best, it's like, dude, I don't know.
Yeah. I just didn't know if there was anybody that stood out right now.
Yeah. I mean, when it comes to like, we're in a new world of engineering to where like I come from that background of, running a studio 20 years ago where very few people knew how to operate a DAW and, run a console and, work this equipment properly. And I'm sure YouTube maybe existed in its infancy stages, but there wasn't like the tutorials there are right now. But right now, if you're ambitious and you just want to learn the technical side of recording, the only thing holding you back is just your own ambition.
Yeah.
So when it comes to producing, I feel like that's a developed skill because like yesterday I worked with a dude who came over to my house and he brought in just like, it was a great riff. He just brought in one riff. He's like, all right, let's make a song. And he's like, well, now I got to produce. Just like now I'm creating a song from nothing. Those are two different skill sets.
Right. Interesting. Hello. What was the show you were telling me about the other earlier?
So it's for people that like It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia and they like the character who plays like the sociopathic, like what's his name? I forget in the show. But anyway, that dude has his own show, AP Bio, and I'm like one of those suckers for like good casting. It's like, he's the teacher at this high school. He doesn't want to be there. He's like a professor dropout that's like in this in-between place in his life. The casting on all these high school kids is that dude is they crushed it on the casting level. It's hilarious.
And it's called AP Bio?
AP Bio. Yeah. He's like, he's teaching AP Bio at a high school, but he's like some big shot, PhD guy that's
what's it on?
Bitter about it. It's on Netflix now. I don't know what originally was on.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, check it out.
Yeah. That's on the lighter note. Like I always have a tough day, go home, watch something funny. That's healing.
Yeah. That's what I was telling you when we got into last night. I've been into Landman. That's been like my main show.
That's not the one you were talking about earlier though?
No. That's Natalia Grace. Landman's it's a serious show. It's with Billy Bob Thornton, John Hamm, and Demi Moore. Big, like, great cast.
Yeah.
But it's about like an oil business. It's serious. It gets fucking intense, bro. So it's quite an industry. I'm so glad that we're in the industries we're in because, dude, to be like an oil dude, like, I mean, what do they call them? Roughnecks.
Yeah.
That's a tough life, man.
I think, so on two sides, like watching the comedy shows is therapeutic because it's like, dude, just like let go. Life doesn't always have to be cast. And then the opposite is like, do you watch something about somebody's life that's way harder than yours? Your problems seem this big.
I know. It's so true. I catch myself watching, like, actually I went down the Aaron Hernandez rabbit hole.
Yeah.
I literally watched one today.
I feel like I've seen a couple of things, but the psychological profile on him is that there was some unhealed, like hidden stuff in his life that his self-destruct came from. Yeah. Well, yeah. And so I guess from people to ruin the plot a little bit. Like the ways, it's like, why does this guy have such a his hatred of himself for being gay and not wanting to talk about it?
Right. Yeah.
And it was like, he just, something in him was going to like explode until he dealt with that. And it did.
Yeah. And that's, I mean, that's the scary level of like skeletons in the closet.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like demons that people hold on to that end up causing them to do like absolutely insane things that are off the wall, like unaddressed trauma.
Yeah.
That is, and that's like the most extreme case, right?
Mm.
But it's funny to think, like, how many people end up drug addicts, killing themselves or hurting someone else or whatever it is. And it literally, it's, a lot of times it could be something so simple that they could have just addressed, taking the time to process, heal from, and things like that. I mean, Aaron Hernandez could have like his like 5th Super Bowl ring. He could be in a little Speedo running around a bunch of dudes getting oiled up. Like,
true, man.
like he could have,
we live in a society
his time ever
where he didn't even really have to hide it other than his own personal belief of self.
Oh, he would have been fucking adored in the NFL.
Yeah.
Openly gay tight end, but not such a tight end. Like, like all this, like he would be adored in this day and age.
I mean, as it relates to the addiction side, there's this like popularized saying now, and I'm sure maybe you've heard it, but that like people don't usually, addiction isn't a problem for that person. Addiction is the solution, right? And I think I've heard you talk about it, for a lot of people talk about it. It's like, or they think it is, because like whatever it is that they're drowning, they feel like, oh, this like codependence is an addiction.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm drowning. There's this void in my life, and the solution for it is somebody that can love me so I don't have to think about it.
Have you been to a Coda meeting before?
I have, yeah. It's something I'm like, I mean, with meetings for any addiction related thing, like you got to go to a few until you find one,
Yeah. I've been to one Coda meeting.
Definitely some that suck, just being honest.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, no, I found love at a Coda meeting. No, I'm kidding. But it was like, I had a hard time with Coda. I'm still an Alcoholics Anonymous.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the same thing. And I think a lot of people that don't realize, like, Codependence Anonymous and Narcotics Anonymous, Heroin Anonymous, it's all the same process. Right. Still the same 12 steps, the same everything.
Yeah. The surrender, the initial, like, I'm powerless. I can't handle this on my own. That's foundational.
My problem is the 12th step for a codependent is, in my opinion, like, it probably is really hard for codependents to carry a message to the next codependent. That's kind of like the whole thing about codependents, is they latch.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you have like codependents helping other codependents. I don't know. I don't know what the success rate is with Codependence Anonymous, because the success rate isn't great with Alcoholics Anonymous, and it's the best way to get sober statistically, and it's not for everybody. So with Codependence Anonymous, it's like, I wonder what good it really does.
I mean, I can't really speak a lot about it because I'm not heavily involved in the community. I'm interested because I think it's a resource, but like the vast majority of my personal work has been from establishing a community, because I was very isolated, right? One of the things about people in unhealthy codependent relationships is that maybe their partner doesn't want them to be close to their family or be close to their friends. They want to like keep them in, So I was very like
And both sides were codependent with you.
Yeah, I mean, for me, when it comes to being social, like I always wanted us to get out, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I wanted to bring the family to be more involved because I felt like the more eyes there were in this unhealthy world, the more that when it's like people I really trust, by the way, the more eyes that were in there, the more chance there would be for some form of healing. You know, I think I was like yearning for that healing. And I think there was a little bit of a threat level from that, from my ex, is that like, oh, the more family gets involved, you know, maybe they're going to identify some of the problems here.
Oh, you think?
Yeah. And I either way, like, I'm not going to make an accusation so much as to say I was very isolated. Like, you know, you were always a great friend, but how often did I go hang out with you?
Right.
Seldom. Like, my family always wants to be there for me, but I was canceling plans with them all the time. You know what I mean? I was like, at times almost like forbidden from seeing them and stuff like that. So,
oh, really?
Yeah. So like, there's this whole side of me that's like dealing with my issues through reestablishing a sense of community first, and then with that level of support, so that I'm not like isolated in it, then reaching out for these other resources. So like therapy then would be like my next level, and the Coda type meetings, those are a little bit more on the outskirts for me. Not that I'm in denial about using or potentially benefiting from that resource, but just I think that like you said, it's like it's a non-professional environment, right? So you're going to get codependent people trying to help codependent people, and it's like there's some chaos in there. You know?
Yeah, I'm speaking out of both sides of my mouth with that topic, because I do believe only the broken can heal the broken. But and I would have a really hard time getting sober from someone who's never getting sober from someone who's never been an addict or an alcoholic. Something about two codependents linking up that has
well, I mean, you're not going there looking for a date. You know what I mean? You should have.
Yeah.
And that's
go to AA to get a date.
Of course. Right. Well, but I'm just saying, that's why, like, I think going to a few meetings is good, because I've gone to a meeting that was like, wow, this is a mess. And I've gone to a meeting where it's like, dude, this guy has been dealing with this for more than a decade. And I think, from my perspective, this dude is healed from his codependence, and he's doing this as a service to other people. Because I do believe in the healing model, whether it's AA or NA or, you know, Coda or whatever.
No, it's definitely true.
Yeah.
You know, I got over my codependency.
How's that?
Being abandoned. It's crazy to think, but like literally when I had no other option.
Yeah.
Not being abandoned, but being completely removed.
So like, you went through a break, the person left you.
Yep. I lived out here. I had nobody.
Yeah. I mean,
I had no choice.
Yeah.
Relocation.
You better like yourself. You better learn to like yourself.
Learn to fucking like yourself. You better learn to step into it and heal.
And then I think also, just knowing a little bit about your background, I think getting into fitness and being proud of some of your accomplishments and being like, you know what? Like, I'm pretty good at some stuff, you know? Like,
yeah,
I think you have a lot to be proud of. And I think that when you go into a new community where like, it's, you know, you're not, I mean, you get to choose who you want to be, right? Part of the thing, like, people are stuck in these old communities where people want to view them a certain way. It's like, oh, that's Tim. He was incarcerated. Oh, that's Tim. Like, he has this history. And it's like, I don't want to be in environments where like I walk into the room and that's what people think of me. I want to be in a room where it's like, oh, that's Tim. He's got a lot of strengths.
Yep.
You know?
Yep. And so, and I'm a firm believer in your location, and a firm believer of like, you know, when you get sober to not go back. And it's funny because I've talked to so many young cats that, you know, were here for rehab, and they go to like the meetings that I go to. And they're here from Pennsylvania or North Carolina or whatever. And they're like, yeah, I'm thinking about staying. And I'll tell them,
do it. I mean, especially,
what the fuck do you have? What do you have at home?
Yeah.
Yeah. A shitty job.
Yeah.
Right. A girlfriend, honestly. And anyway, you know, even like for me, like, and maybe you hate me for saying it, maybe not. Like, even like my son, like staying in Michigan because of my son would have been a mistake. It would have been a mistake. We have a relationship and stuff. But I don't think that I think I would have been still a mess. If I would have went back just to have that relationship.
Yeah, that's such a tough one, because there's a part of most people that are like, you gotta make it work. And then there's the other part where it's like the realistic psychology of it. I'm sure as you know, is that to be in somebody's life as an unhealthy person is not helping them.
No. And as a matter of fact, now, okay, and that was my thought process back then. And now we have the best relationship that we've ever had.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, that's the important part.
Yeah. I was leaving out that.
Yeah. For a second, I was like, as your friend, I was like, man, that feels so sad to me. But now,
no. So it was a lot of trust rebuilding, things like that. But now, like, he comes out here, he flies out here all by himself. You know, at the time he was 12, now he's 13. You know, he puts his little backpack on. He had the lady bring him and set him on the plane, buckle his seatbelt and everything, and then he flies out here. I'm allowed to come through security, pick him up, and we actually get to enjoy each other. And he sees me as dad sober, which he'd never seen before.
Oh, okay.
You know.
On a side note, I have a friend with a disability. I'll have to learn how to get through security to help this person get through. Is it like, I know your son doesn't have a disability necessarily, but like, how do you? We'll talk about that later. I need to figure out how to like help somebody out in that situation.
What kind of disability?
Like can't walk long distances on their own.
Oh,
yeah.
Well, they should have an assistance thing.
Yeah. That's a side note, but it's cool that you're able to go through and get them.
Yeah, they just give you a passport. So we just did a collab. We're gonna do a couple collabs, and you were kind of warning me about monitoring the comments. And let's talk about that. Keyboard warring.
The thing is, I don't want to spend time doing it. So I just, I hate it. Like, it makes me not want to be on social media, because like, dude, who's got time to sit there and go through the comments? And, especially when such a small percentage of people are so vocal all the time,
Mm-hmm. So I don't delete hate comments or anything like that. Yours is a little more sensitive. But I don't delete them. I welcome them, even on my ads, even when people call me a scammer and things like that.
Yeah.
I'm good with it. I'll leave them on there. Lately, it's been nice try Diddy. That's what people like to say.
Yeah.
Just try Diddy. Like, okay, I don't understand it. I'm not selling baby oil. But it's the people that talk, in the comments are the brokest, saddest, with like nothing going.
That's true. I haven't really seen a lot of healthy and great people in there, talking shit on somebody.
No,
it's not a comment.
I've read some of the comments on yours, and it's funny because I'll like scan through and be like a bunch of like misleading information, and then there'll be like a couple guys that'll be like, "Well, I got tickets to this show in Denver. Like, what's going on? Is that gonna still happen?" And I'm like, I like that guy. What the fuck? I better get a refund. I like that guy. Not for the refund reason, but anyways, but yeah, you'll never find somebody that's doing something more important. How many people in bands that you've played with, competed with, whatever, have ever put a comment like that, negative comment?
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't happen.
No, it's basement dweller losers.
Yeah. It would actually be mind-blowing if you saw a respected musician just out there stirring stuff up, so
You would never.
Yeah.
You'll never find somebody that's doing more than you talking shit.
Right.
It's always people that are projecting their own insecurities.
Right.
Their own bullshit. And again, like if I were you, I'm gonna just picture like if I were Tim Lambesis and I were going through this exact thing. And by the way, I could have not in your level of being the public figure that you are, but in a lot of these places that you have, maybe not to the extreme, but I've been speculated. I had a massive affair and divorce, and in my community, and I told you this before too, like in my community, I was a pretty well-known person. Everybody knew. My family knew me. And when I went through my affair, which was very public, very loud, I did not hide it. And then my divorce, and then everything that went along with that, which was like, there was a lot of guilt, shame, and embarrassment. If I were you, I would just can bring it.
Well, I mean, my thing is, I've gone so far as to not even really care about this sense of strategy per se. It's just like, dude, I'm just going to live my life because it's just too stressful.
And that's what I mean.
Like of how I'm, representing myself. If I post too many gym stories in a row, do people think that I'm, trying to glorify fitness too much? And if I post too many pictures with cute dogs, am I like trying to tug on people's heartstrings? And like, like I'm just, if I see
so it's questioning your intention is always what it is.
I think that's what people do. And it's like, dude, because that's what social media and stories in particular, just people are posting what they did that day.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They're not supposed to be thinking about it, and if you are thinking about it to that degree, great. I hope your business is really, really thriving, but that's not a great quality of life, so.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. It's funny because there's social media and then there's reality, and what people see, they want to warp to what they want to believe. And a lot of times, like earlier when we were talking about, we watch shows of like people that have miserable lives because it makes you feel good and whatever it is. I look at it for sheer entertainment. But that's the reality somebody's going to warp on social media. They're going to say like, oh, this person's out to do this, this, and this, because that's secretly what they see in themselves.
Yeah.
And it's unfortunate, but it's true. The best part about social media is it rewards you for that type of feedback, which is
feedback keeps
correct.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Again, I mean, I've been really, and it's about me in the last like year or two, like I post because of the necessity of just existing in this world, but like I've been very much off of social media because this anxiety that it gives me.
Oh, really?
I think part of me is just has to get past that and just be like, whatever the criticism may be. I think there's conversations that can be had, even if there's the negative comments, right? There's very important conversations around incarceration, around healing, around rehabilitation. Like, I just need to get out there and start having those conversations.
Do you see yourself eventually? And I don't think it's something that, because that type of speculation sucks, but like, do you think that maybe there now is a window for you to become more like for me, like I embraced the sobriety and I became a sobriety personality. Do you think that you might be able to speak for people who struggle with things like?
Yeah, I have a platform where viewers, even if those viewers want to watch me to criticize me, and I want to use that because there's people I have conversations with. There's a guy I worked with yesterday. He was incarcerated for about 8 years, I think, from 21 to 28, 29. And the stories of his development are like very inspiring to me, but he has very like few followers. And it's like, man, I want to tell this guy's story. So I would just sit down like this. Let's just ask him questions. Let's like hear about his story because he has something to teach the world,
Yeah. I like that.
Yeah.
I like that. Cool. This was fun.
Yeah, it was.
Glad we did this.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll have to, some of these ideas, I'll bounce them off you and see how we can, I want to tell other people's stories, right? I feel like what I've been through is such a small piece of this concept of rehabilitation and the struggle in the aftermath and healing and all that. And there's some really inspiring stories that need to be told.
Hell yeah. I agree. Yeah. I think it would be a great platform. Something too a little bit different from music and doing something now that's just fun.
Yeah. Yeah.
Could change lives.
For sure.
And that's what it's all about. If you guys like what you saw, make sure you click subscribe. Thank you for tuning in. If you made it this far, we'll catch you next time.